Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, good day to you. As depending where you are in the world, I'm here live in London. I'm doing our nighttime devotion. The devotional is called Conflict and Courage. The title today, Learning and Unlearning. The scripture reading is taken from Proverbs 2, verse 6. The Lord giveth wisdom. Out of his mouth cometh knowledge and understanding. In the wilds of Midian, Moses spent 40 years as a keeper of sheep. Apparently, cut off forever from his life's mission, he was receiving the discipline essential for its fulfillment. Moses had been learning much that he must unlearn. The influences that had surrounded him in Egypt, the love of his foster mother, his own high position as the king's grandson, the disruption on every hand, the dissipation on every hand, the refinement, the subtlety, and the mysticism of a false religion, the splendor of idolatrous worship, the solemn grandeur of architecture and sculpture. All had left deep impressions upon his developing mind and had molded, to some extent, his habits and character. Time, change of surroundings, and communion with God could remove these impressions. It would require on the part of Moses himself a struggle as for life to renounce error and accept truth. But God would be his helper when the conflict should be too severe for human strength. In order to receive God's help, man must realize his weakness and deficiency. He must apply his own mind to the great change he wrought in himself. Many never attain to the position that they might occupy because they wait for God to do for them that which he has given them power to do for themselves. Shut in by the bulwarks of the mountains, Moses was alone with God. The magnificent temples of Egypt no longer impressed his mind with their superstition and falsehood. In the solemn grandeur of the everlasting hills, he beheld the majesty of the Most High, and in contrast, realized how powerless and insignificant were the gods of Egypt. Everywhere the Creator's name was written. Moses seemed to stand in his presence and to be overshadowed by his power. Here, his pride and self-sufficiency were swept away. In the stern simplicity of his wilderness life, the results of the ease and luxury of Egypt disappeared. Moses became patient, reverent, and humble, very meek, and above all, the men which were upon the face of the earth, yet strong in faith in the mighty God of Jacob. Very meek above all the men which were upon the face of the earth. Learning and unlearning. So bear in mind, Moses was about 40 years old when he left Egypt. And then he spent 40 years as a shepherd. 40 years a shepherd. 40 years was the time he was required to unlearn everything he had been taught in Egypt, everything he was accustomed to, everything he was used to. His appetite, his likes, dislikes, his culture, his character, all had to be undone. And the bit that struck me most with this whole reading this is what struck me most. In order to receive God's help, man must realize his weakness and deficiency. He must apply his own mind to the great change to be wrought in himself. Many never attain to the position that they might occupy because they wait for God to do for them that which he has given them power to do for themselves. Listen, God gives you what it is you need to do. He gives you the ability. He gives you the skill. He gives you the gifts you require, the talents. But many wait for God to say, come on in, go do it. Or they wait for a sudden, oh, I can suddenly sing. God gives you the gift of singing. You have to practice, and hone that talent. God gives you the gift to preach, or the gift to do Bible study, the gift of hospitality, the gift of cooking. You have to hone that talent, that skill, that ability, and make it better. Make it work. Don't wait for God to do in you, as it says here, what you can already do yourself. God's already put it in you to do it. You have to do it. Don't wait 40 years. You haven't got that long. We don't have that long. Jesus is coming very easily within the next 20 years. We don't even have that long, because in that time we've got to go through the Great Tribulation, the plagues, the last plagues. We've got to go through a whole lot within that time before Jesus comes. Because when Jesus comes, all that would have all happened, and he just comes to retrieve us. Search yourself, what it is you can naturally do actually really well, and do it for the glory of God.